back. Hit that like button. Hit the like button. Yeah, I'm gonna ask y'all. People gotta start getting my credit on this internet, man. I'm ready to start going in on everybody. Nobody's safe. Nobody is safe for me on this internet, man. Until I start getting the credit and the recognition I deserve on this bitch, I'm gonna keep giving niggas the blues. T Mac, what it is, nigga. Keep giving these niggas the blues, man. Hey, man. Ain't never gonna stop. But Karmelo Anthony got to appeal to the Supreme Court. That judge not gonna recuse himself from the case, man. So Karmelo Anthony just filed the appeal, which goes to the trial judge. Motion for new trial. He's gonna have to appeal that to the Supreme Court. Judges, for the most part, they don't like recusing themselves, man. No judge wants to admit they made a mistake, or they wasn't able to be fair, unbiased, impartial. Don't no judge want to admit that. God damn, hold up, y'all. Yeah, my bad, y'all. Cooking up, ball out, what it is, niggas. But yeah, though, y'all. So the judge, not the judge, the defense team had a secret agreement with the prosecution. Now, we touched on that a couple days ago, but Neek at Night went through the paperwork. Remember, we started to go through the paperwork, yo, but that shit was a fucking 193 pages, man. And y'all know I be working hella hours, so I ain't had time. I ain't had time to go through it. Hold on. Yo, what it do? What it do? Man, that judge made a whole bunch of errors, man. And like I told y'all, the first error was the fact that the case wasn't public, yo. The fix was in, yo. Once he closed that courtroom, the fix was in. The fix was in, man. It wasn't no way he was gonna get a fair trial in Collin County. But appealing to him is not going. That's not gonna remedy anything. They gotta appeal that shit to the Supreme Court. Now maybe protocol is to go through the judge first, and then they take it to the Supreme Court. But they gotta take that case to the Supreme Court. That's the only way. That's the only way they're gonna get what they're looking for. That's the only way Man, hopefully he don't do that much, yo. Don't get me wrong, man. Based off the evidence, like I said, if that's some new evidence that we ain't heard, and it very well could be possible, it's some new evidence that we ain't heard. Like we found out in the paperwork that the Metcalf brothers was bullies. They was bullies. Like, how did you sign an agreement? This is the thing that the defense, and that's why the defense thing need to be investigated. How did you sign an agreement that made it impossible for you to bring up these boys' history? Why would you sign something like that, man? Like it looked like whatever the agreement was, whatever they was trying to hide from the jury, from Karmelo Anthony's side and Austin Metcalf's side. It's like, yo, I would have never signed that. Cause you needed that. You needed to show these boys character. You know, because they was painting him out like he was just this innocent victim and it was a light shove and he wasn't real loud. But then you got other kids that was on the team or went to the school that said they was fucking bullies. Everybody knew it. What's up, Carl? Everybody knew it. How you don't mention it? How do you not allow that to be mentioned in trial? And then part of the reason that Karmelo Anthony didn't testify was because of that. It would have opened the door to question his character. But at that point, the trial was over. The defense just did a horrible job, man. Everybody participated in that railroad, man. Everybody participated. They all participated in the railroad. So, Nika at night went through the paperwork. We have to check her out. She went through the paperwork. Here you go.
At Hibbett, we've got what you need to set the next trend from toe to head. All the sizes, all the colors, top brands.
From the state's notice. All right, so this is Exhibit 10. So this is what Mike Howard...
So listen to this deal that the prosecution got together with the defense and came up with. And look, the defense didn't author this deal. The prosecution did. Like as a defense attorney, why are you agreeing? Like if the character problems were so bad on Karmelo end, you would think the defense would introduce this. No, the prosecution introduced it. So if you're a defense attorney and the prosecution come to you with this agreement, not, we're gonna play clean. That's how it was presented. We're gonna play clean. We're not gonna bring up none of these guys' character. As a defense lawyer, you should question why. Why are y'all coming at me with this deal? And mind you, it ain't like it never happened before. But in a trial where character is everything. Character is everything. How do you sign a deal like this and agree to it? You're not even the one that authored it originally.
Right. So this is Exhibit 10. So this is what Mike Howard said happened in the Karmelo Anthony trial. The state of Texas versus Karmelo Sincere Anthony. Affidavit of Mike Howard. Before me, the undersigned notary public on this day personally appeared Mike Howard, who, being by me duly sworn, deposed, and state as follows. I, Mike Howard, and those of you guys who don't know who Mike Howard is, this is the lawyer that represented Karmelo Anthony during the trial. I, Mike Howard, am at least 18 years of age, of sound mind, and I am competent and qualified to make this affidavit. I have personal knowledge of the facts stated herein and that they are true and correct. I declare that. I was the trial counsel supported by second chair co-counsel Toby Shook, third chair counsel Tasha Gupta, And briefing appellate co-counsel Michael Mola, who represented Karmelo in the case number leading up to June 1st. Trial of this case, the defense and prosecution reached an agreement where the prosecution and defense jointly agreed to not raise any alleged character, reputation, and strenuous offenses / bad act evidence relating to Mr. Anthony as well as Austin Metcalf and.
Why would you agree to that though, yo? It's like that doesn't make sense. When character was so important in this trial. It don't make sense. So Carmelo Anthony defense team wasn't even able to bring up the fact that, yo, this is a great kid. Never been in trouble. A student, 3.7 GPA. Like, yo, how do you sign an agreement where you can't say none of that? How do you sign an agreement? So now they can just paint a narrative that he's a fucking menace, and they can use stereotypes to do it without even actually doing it. You understand what I'm saying? They can paint the narrative that Carmelo Anthony is a menace just because he's black and he's a kid. And they don't never gotta say it because that's the stereotypes. That's how black kids are viewed anyway. So now you got a kid that don't fit that mold at all. And you sign a deal where you can't explain that he don't fit that mold? Yeah, that's fucking crazy, man.
Bad act evidence relating to Mr. Anthony as well as Austin Metcalf and Hunter Metcalf during the trial herein after referred to as the agreement. The lead prosecutor in the case, Bill Worski,
I think he's gonna get another trial and he gonna get sentenced to something more fairly. Maybe like a 15 or 10 or something like that. That's what I think going to happen. Get another trial, get a change of venue, and have a real defense team to fight for you. Not a defense team that's locked in with the prosecution that's working to send you to prison. No, not none of that shit. Man, how are you? That was excessive, yo. The fact that he was found guilty on first degree murder alone was he should have never even been charged with first degree murder.
Prosecutor in the case, Bill Worski, brought up the possibility of the agreement a number of times well before the agreement was discussed in detail and eventually reached. When mentioning a proposed agreement, Mr. Worski proposed that we try the case clean, which he defined as based only on what happened under the tent that day. Under the Memorial High School tent at Perkindall Stadium on April 2nd, 2025, and not go into character, reputation, or a strenuous offense and or bad act evidence applicable to either Austin and Hunter or Karmelo. On May 5th, 2026, Mr. Shook and Mr. Worski discussed this proposed agreement by phone. During that phone call, Mr. Shook and Mr. Worski discussed the evidence of character, reputation, and extraneous offense / bad conduct as it applied to both the Metcalf twins and Karmelo Anthony. Now, it's important to note that Mr. Shook and Mr. Worski used to work together. So the two people who used to work together made this agreement on the phone. Interesting. The two people who used to work together because Toby Shook used to be a prosecutor, and so is Bill Worski, and they worked together. The two people that worked together made this deal on the phone. It stinks. It all stinks. On May 5th, 2026, Mr. Shook and Mr. Worski discussed this proposed agreement by phone. During that phone call, Mr. Shook and Mr. Worski discussed the evidence of character, reputation, and extraneous offense / bad conduct as it applied to both the Metcalf twins and Karmelo Anthony. Mr. Worski reiterated that he would be happy to try this without getting into character at all, just on what happened the day of the track meet. On May 8th, 2026, the defense and prosecution teams met in Collins County grand jury room. The prosecution team gave
trash. I don't like nothing about that shit, bro. Garbage, like hot garbage. Like, I don't understand What niggas see in your music?
Us a document entitled State Dates Notice of Intent to Use Extraneous Offenses herein after State's Notice, and we gave to them a document entitled Anthony's Motion in Limine regarding the admissibility of pertinent character trait evidence under the ambiguous aggressor rule and evidence under the Texas Code, whatever that is. After tendering to each other our respective extraneous filing/briefings, we then discussed the proposed agreement which Mr. Worski referred to as a gentleman's agreement. Mr. Worski outlined the proposed agreement as follows.
You shouldn't be signing no fucking gentleman's agreement, yo. Trials are intense. It's a fight. You understand? Like a real fight. Like we ain't here to play. Like you wanna as a lawyer, you want a Doug, man. Like you don't want no motherfucking nice guy ass attorney, man. You want an attorney that's gonna jump over the lines every now and then. Ain't no gentleman's agreement. It's a fuck you made. I'm not ain't no gentleman's agreement, man. And I told y'all, Carmelo Anthony family was the perfect people to do this to because of their ignorance of law and their ignorance of the court system. So they was with us. They was in a situation. The state, the judge, everybody involved was in a golden situation to railroad them because this family don't know anything. So they are literally gonna listen to whatever we tell them. That's why Charleston White was able to get around them. That's why the other guy, the fucking lawyer that shook the baby, he was able to get around them. They all was just around these people and just pulling them all different type of ways, and they ain't know what to do. They ain't know what to do. They ain't have their own opinion. They just was listening to this person, listening to this person. This person say this. All right, we doing that, and they was just fucking running them through the ringer, running them through the ringer. Cause ain't no way if the lawyer would have came to me and was like, yeah, I signed, the prosecution reached out to me, and we wanna have a clean trial. Like if that was my son, and they'd be like, yeah, we want to have a clean trial, Mr. Mosley. We ain't gonna bring up no character flaws on either end. And I'd be sitting back thinking about my son, like, oh, my son is a good student. He ain't never been in trouble before. I don't know about this kid. But for my child, I don't know if we're gonna do that. And man, even if my child has had some little issues in school, whatever, compared to this child, oh man, fuck that. No, hold up. Give me a minute before we decide on this. Let me do some investigating on this other child. Hold on. Yeah, let's do some investigating on it. Let me look into this child first. Let me look into this Metcalf family. Before I say, yeah, we gonna play. Well, I ain't never say we gonna play clean. I don't even like that. I don't even like how that sounds in trial. Trials ain't clean. Y'all saying the games the prosecution was playing in the YSL trial? Wasn't nothing clean about the shit that they was doing. I mean, they was playing so dirty. In that trial, the judge got kicked off the case. In Y&W Melly trial, the prosecution got removed. What you mean clean? I ain't playing clean. We playing dirty. The fuck you mean? If you can take a shot below the belt without the referee look, you better take that bitch. Fuck you mean? We trying to win. We trying to win, man. We ain't come here to lose, man. You already know how that shit go, Hot Mo.
Gentlemen's agreement. Mr. Worski outlined the proposed agreement as follows. Both sides try the case without character, reputation, or extraneous evidence for either the Metcalf twins or Karmelo Anthony, and just try the case based on what happened under the tent and during another description during that meeting. What happened on the day of the incident? Seeking clarification, I asked and Mr. Worski confirmed that this would mean that the defense would not go into evidence relating to the Metcalf twins' character, reputation, and extraneous offenses / acts related.
And then it's another thing too, y'all. Remember the video we did yesterday? It was kid for one. It was a girl that said the Metcalf kids assaulted them, like sexually. That was the thing. Then you got another kid. All this is, and that's what I'm saying. All this is documented. So if you read in the documents of what was said about this child, how do you sign this agreement? Y'all get what I'm saying? This was all part of the plan to railroad this boy. That's why I don't blame the jury, because the fix was in way before the jury. I told y'all earlier, it was other kids that said they was bullies. They had attitude problems. And look, and based off their father, shit, I ain't surprised. You see the type shit he on.
Extraneous offenses / acts related to violence and bullying, inclusive of discipline and write-ups in the Metcalf twins school records within this framework, as well as racism. In exchange, the prosecution would not go into character, reputation, and extraneous offenses / acts, evidence relating to Karmelo Anthony, inclusive of the contents of Karmelo Anthony's cell phone and school disciplinary records. At this
So look, we weighing racism versus whatever was in Karmelo Anthony's cell phone in disciplinary actions in school. Like if we putting that on the scale, whatever was in his cell phone, disciplinary actions in school, racism. If I'm the attorney, man, fuck that. Hell no. No, I ain't signing that deal. If there was evidence of racism with these kids, which shows biasness, which shows that he intentionally targeted him, maybe, possibility, we don't know for certain, but it could, it could be a thing. No, yeah, we not signing that deal, man. Fuck no.
I sought clarification on how this agreement would work practically, specifically how to handle the possibility of opening the door to this evidence from either side. During this meeting, Mr. Worski repeatedly expressed his concern that the defense would kick open its own door by asking questions of witnesses that would delve into issues restricted by the agreement. I asked about specific statements made by witnesses interviewed by police and captured by video on the day of the incident, where those witnesses discussed the Metcalf twins being passionate, triggered, and not tolerating being disrespected, etc. Mr.
Come on now. Triggered, not tolerating disrespect. That line's right up with what the fuck yo was on that day. He couldn't fathom the fact that a black kid told him no, not moving nowhere. How you don't allow that to be introduced as evidence, as character evidence? Shit, you might could have introduced that as direct evidence. Oh, bad for me. I'm ready to let it play. Hold on.
Worski eventually agreed that questions narrowly tailored to ask specific statements the witnesses made to police about the incident under the tent on April 2nd, 2025, including statements just described about the mindset and actions of the parties involved in the incident, would not constitute kicking open your own door, and thus would not violate our proposed agreement. During this meeting, we discussed the terms of the agreement, being that testimony from eyewitnesses from under the memorial tent on April 2nd, 2025, and who were discussing the facts of what happened under the memorial tent on April 2nd, 2025, would be permissible, and that neither side would go into character, reputation, or extraneous evidence for either the Metcalf twins or Karmelo Anthony. During this meeting, I also asked about the agreement regarding the possibility of the defense calling experts. The prosecutors only discussed how the agreement would apply to the defense experts during the sentencing phase. So I asked how the possibility of the defense calling experts to testify during the guilt/innocent phase would impact the proposed agreement. The prosecutor team replied that they had not considered us calling experts to testify during the guilt and innocent phase. They stated that if the defense called experts to testify regarding Mr. Anthony's epilepsy or about a fight or flight response, they considered expert testimony like that to violate the agreement and thus open the door to character, reputation, and calling experts to testify during August 2nd, 2025 would be permissible, and that neither side would go into character, reputation, or extraneous evidence for either the Metcalf twins or Karmelo Anthony. During this meeting, I also asked about the agreement regarding the possibility of the defense calling experts.
And mind you, the judge had to sign off on this. Now, more than likely, if it's an agreement between the prosecution and the defense, the judge is going to sign off. But he could have vetoed it too, if he thought it was unfair. He could have vetoed it if he thought it was unfair. Oh, my phone ring died.
Applied to the defense experts during the sentencing phase. So I asked how the possibility of the defense calling experts to testify during the guilt/innocent phase would impact the proposed agreement. The prosecutor team replied that they had not considered us calling experts to testify during the guilt and innocent phase.
How did they not consider them calling experts to testify? The guilt versus innocent phase, that's just during trial. That's mid-trial. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a trial of this magnitude where it was so much at stake, where you don't bring no expert witnesses, no witnesses on bullying, no witnesses on the mind frame or the judgment of a child, no witnesses. The fix was in, man.
Phase. They stated that if the defense called experts to testify regarding Mr. Anthony's epilepsy or about a fight or flight response, they considered expert testimony like that to violate the agreement and thus open the door to character, reputation, and extraneous offense/act evidence. On May 11, 2026, Mr. Worski, Dewey Mitchell, Mr. Shook, and I discussed the proposed agreement again by phone. I informed the prosecution that we had an informal agreement on the proposed agreement, but that we needed to have a final conversation with Mr. Anthony and with his parents to confirm the final agreement. During this phone conversation, Mr. Worski confirmed that the agreement would extend to the sentencing phase of trial as well. Mr. Worski said that with
God damn. This is why are you signing a deal that's handicapped the shit out you? From the beginning of the trial all the way to the deal handicapped them during trial, handicapped them in sentencing, post conviction, if convicted. What kind of deal was this to sign as a defense attorney that want your best for your client? He need to be investigated for this, man. Need to be investigated for this.
would mean that in accordance with the agreement, the prosecution would quickly rest its sentencing case in chief without going into any allegations listed in the state's notice. Mr. Worski said, however, that he would not allow a false impression to be presented to the jury by a defense witness, and that if such a thing occurred, he would respond by going into character, reputation, and extraneous evidence from the state's notice. After the defense asked about an Anthony family member testifying at sentencing, Mr. Worski agreed that the agreement would cover Mr. Anthony's mother testifying to the standard "I love my son, please show him mercy" type of testimony, but no further. What? Somebody said this gotta be fake. No, this is in his motion.
Yo, this is crazy, yo. Yo, this is fucking crazy, man. You signed a deal, an agreement, to where his mother couldn't even say good things about her son if he was found guilty? Yeah, that's crazy. That's why ain't nobody speak on his behalf. But the Metcalf father did. Hunter did. They all had victim impact statements. Shit crazy, man.
This is what Mike Howard is testifying to. Who says, "I love my son, please show him mercy," and that's all you can say? If you guys don't see that this was a true railroad through and through, again, it shows that you are biased. I don't care what you think about the outcome of the case and how you feel like it should go. Nothing about this was fair. Nothing about this was just. In my opinion, all of this shows corruption all the way through it. Somebody said, was this before the trial? Yes, the trial started June 1st, 2026. This is talking about communications that they had May 11th. And then the next paragraph shows communication they have May 21st. The trial started June 1st. On May 21st, 2026, the defense and prosecution teams met with Judge Roach in his chambers. During that meeting, both sides explained the agreement to the judge, describing it again as both sides agreeing not to go into character, reputation, strenuous evidence as it applies to both sides during both guilt and innocence and sentencing phases, as long as no doors are open or false impressions given. We agreed that the best way to document such an agreement would be for the defense to draft and file a motion in limine applying to character, reputation, and extraneous evidence applicable to all witnesses. So it would cover both the Metcalf twins and Mr. Anthony. But if made public, would not trigger reporting in the media about bad evidence specific to certain witnesses, thus endangering a fair trial. On May 21st, 2026, I drafted the motion in limine as described above and sent it to Mr. Worski by email. It was hand-delivered to the judge on opening day of trial. The defense understanding of the agreement. The defense understood the agreement with the prosecution to cover all witnesses who could be called to testify by either the prosecution or defense about the incident that occurred between Mr. Anthony and the Metcalf twins and their teammates under the memorial tent on April 2nd, 2025. As every description by Mr. Worski described, the agreement to allow for testimony about what happened under the tent. And Mr. Anthony was obviously a witness to what happened under the tent. By the plain meaning of the language Mr. Worski repeatedly used, the defense always understood the agreement to cover Mr. Anthony's potential testimony just as it would any other eyewitness to the incident under the tent on April 2nd, 2025. Following the plain meaning of Mr. Worski's words, in describing
this is how you know it's bullshit, right? Because at the in post trial phase, what would it matter? Especially the way that trial was going, or the way that trial went. Even if you agree and stayed within the lines of this agreement, all the way up until he was found until the last day of trial. Fuck the agreement now, cause we losing bad. Karmelo, get up that bitch and tell your fucking story. He could have did that. Could have did it. Nope. He knew they was losing and did nothing about it. Nothing about it.
Meaning of Mr. Worski's words in describing the agreement, the defense understood the agreement to cover testimony by eyewitnesses such as memorial students underneath the tent at the time of the incident. Hunter Metcalf, students outside the memorial tent who looked over and witnessed the incident, and Karmelo Anthony. This understanding of the agreement was further confirmed by events that occurred after the motion in limine memorializing the agreement was drafted and tendered to the prosecution on May 29, 2026, after a meeting with Judge Roach, the prosecution, and the defense to discuss how trial security would be handled. The parties discussed the timing of the state's case in chief and when the defense case in chief would start. Mr. Worski informed the court and the defense that he estimated it would take 3 days for the state to present its case in chief, which would have ended sometime on Saturday, June 6, 2026. In response, I voiced concern to the judge in front of the prosecution's team that some of the witnesses the defense anticipated calling to testify were unavailable on Saturday, June 6th. I explained that, like in any case, I would not know until the final moment whether we would call our client for sure, but that if the prosecution rested sometime Saturday and the judge forced us to call witnesses immediately on Saturday, may not have enough witnesses available to fill up the full day of testimony Saturday. Explained that if this happened, it would force me to call my clients out of order. The defense plan was to call all our fact witnesses first to establish facts and then conclude by calling our client to testify as our last witness. On Friday, June 5th, 2026, the second day of testimony during the state's case in chief, I checked in with Mr. Worski about how he was proceeding on whether he would end up taking more or less time to present his case in chief than he had initially estimated.
All right, let me call this customer real quick. All right, well, I'm on the way to now. Should be in about 30 minutes.
Oh, you are awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right, see you in a bit.
All right, bye-bye.
informed me that he was moving more quickly than he had initially estimated. So the prosecution was on track to rest its case in chief midday Saturday. In this conversation with Mr. Worski, I again brought up the fact that several defense witnesses were unavailable on Saturday. And if the judge proceeded with this plan to force the defense to call witnesses immediately upon the prosecution resting in order to have a full day of testimony on Saturday, we might be forced to call our client out of order. This time, I did not preface this statement with the perfunctory, like in any case. I won't know if I'm going to call my client at the last minute because I was not on the record and I was speaking to call my client I was not on the record and was speaking frankly with opposing counsel. I was very plain about the defense intention to call Mr. Anthony to testify and how the judge's proposed schedule requirements were going to force us to call Mr. Anthony out of order. I don't independently recall what time on Friday, June 5th, this conversation with Mr. Worski occurred. It must have occurred just before noon because I then sent an email to Michael Mola describing the problem we were facing and asking Mr. Mola to draft a brief for us to argue to the judge that he couldn't force us to call our client out of order. Throughout the morning and early afternoon, let me change the page for y'all. Throughout the morning and early afternoon on Saturday, June 6th, Mr. Shook and I repeatedly checked in with Mr. Worski to get updated estimates of when he might rest his case in chief, each time referring to how the judge's plan was going to force us to call our client out of order. Besides the defense team repeatedly mentioning in front of Mr. Worski and the rest of the prosecution team that we intended to call our client to testify, even if it meant it would be out of order, Mr. Worski's own actions and arguments made it clear that he knew full and well that we intended to call Mr. Anthony to testify. Even before both sides tendered their notices of and arguments in favor of the admissibility of character reputation and extraneous evidence pertaining to the other side's witnesses, Mr. Worski made references to understanding that the defense sought to introduce character and reputation evidence about Austin and Hunter Metcalf that was uncommunicated/unknown to Mr. Anthony via the ambiguous aggressor rule from Torres v. State, the ambiguous aggressor rule and the admissibility of uncommunicated character and reputation evidence of the decedent in a murder case are all part of a self-defense argument. Torres discusses in depth how the ambiguous aggressor rule allows the defense to put on uncommunicated character and reputation evidence before or after the defendant testified. Mr. Worski repeatedly brought up Torres in discussion with the defense team in the months leading up to the trial, stating that while he thought the judge would rule correctly and not allow the evidence, he conceded that character evidence could be allowed. This repeated discussion of Torres and how it may apply to the trial showed that Mr. Worski was well aware of at least the possibility of Mr. Anthony testifying in order to argue self-defense. This was the entire purpose of the agreement, in that it provided value to the prosecution, limiting the defense from presenting damaging character and reputation evidence against Austin and Hunter Metcalf. And the defense from the defense's perspective, the entire agreement centered around the defendant testifying without impeachment by character, reputation, and extraneous evidence in exchange for the defense not seeking to introduce character, reputation, and extraneous evidence against the Metcalf twins. Furthermore, any competent criminal trial lawyer knows that for a self-defense argument to have any chance of succeeding, the defendant must testify. For all these reasons, the defense always understood the agreement to include Mr. Anthony's testimony free of impeachment by character, reputation, and extraneous offense/bad act evidence, just like every other witness either side could call to testify about what happened under the tent that day. The defense's reliance on the agreement. Throughout the trial, the defense revised the trial strategy in reliance upon the agreement, absent the agreement, the defense intended to cross-examine each memorial student witness prosecution called about Austin and Hunter Metcalf's character and reputation for violence, for being bullies, and for racism. The defense
bullies and racism. How do you not allow that to be? Why would you sign the deal when you couldn't bring that up? As a defense attorney, as a guy that passed the bar, that been studying law and trying criminal cases for who knows how long, how do you allow or sign a deal where you can't bring none of that stuff up? Yeah, that makes absolutely positively no sense to me. Only way that makes sense is if you intentionally bungled the case. It's the only way that makes sense.
also intended to cross-examine these witnesses about various statements they have made to the police on April 2nd, 2025 regarding Austin and Hunter Metcalf being easily triggered, having a loud mouth, being passionate, and not allowing themselves to be disrespected. What do y'all think so far to Mike Howard's affidavit, to what he went through behind the scenes as it pertains to this case? I dropped the link down below. If y'all want to come up and talk about what we are hearing so far, let me know. If not, I'll continue to read. But let me see what y'all say. Crystal Destiny says this is very telling. She said the call is coming from inside the house. I'm glad his parents kept it cool and kept their systems brief. Head to Mike Howard law page and child, I'm not gonna say do that because child, I'm gonna be holding some people accountable, so I can't, you know what I'm saying, but that's what y'all saying to do. I'm not gonna say do that because child. Anyways, click the link. Somebody said, how do I join? Click the link. I'm gonna post the link again. Click the link. You can come and enter. Let me know your thoughts so far, and then I'll continue reading. You keep saying this. I guess you want me to acknowledge that you keep saying, damn, you still live. I've seen you type that several times. Somebody said, this is bad but good at the same time. Another person says, it's also scary. I don't even know how you deal with this one. Child, you laughing because you done typed this several times. Damn, you still live? Like, how, like, what you gonna keep writing that till I respond? To respond. Because again, we are going to break down Austin got during the altercation about Austin's history of fighting and almost getting kicked off the football team for fighting. Another statement, I've known Austin for a while, and if Austin is about to get into a fight, you can tell. Another statement, Austin can be a bit aggressive at times, and he has a bolder mouth sometimes. If the
this is crazy, y'all. Like, I can't believe, there's no way the defense attorney didn't throw him. Remember, I said it from the beginning. Y'all know we always early. We the first people that was saying, he got thrown. They threw him. It was obvious. It was obvious. And this deal says it all. Says it all. So for people that's sitting back, if you still on that shit where you talking about the jury spoke and all that other shit, nah, you just being biased, man. You just being biased because you know good and goddamn well if your child or family member life was on the line and you found out your defense team agreed to play it clean when there was so much dirty on the other side, you lying. You feel me? You ain't being honest, man. You would be pissed off just like everybody else.
Not going to lay he got with some of us, right? And he's the aggressive, loudmouth, being passionate. We're on a roll. All right, so let's continue. So it says, where we at? These witnesses, let's see. The defense also intended to cross-examine these witnesses about various statements they have made to the police on April 2nd regarding Austin Hunter being easily triggered, having a loud mouth, being passionate, not allowing themselves to be disrespected. Some specific examples include Austin's a really big guy and he's the like aggressive guy on the team. Austin got the same way that he got during the altercation is the same way he got with some of us. And the mellow kid, something or whatever, and then he just Austin got triggered. Austin and Hunter, they're not going to let you disrespect them. And Austin, he's like a big guy, so nobody really wants to fight him. And Austin's really a passionate guy. And Jose told police about Austin's history of fighting and almost getting kicked off the football team for fighting. Another statement, I've known Austin for a while, and if Austin is about to get into a fight, you can tell. Another statement, Austin can be a bit aggressive at times, and he has a bolder mouth sometimes. If the prosecution did not call any of these witnesses, the defense was ready to call them during the defense case in chief and question them as hostile witnesses. Furthermore, the defense intended to call witnesses familiar with Austin and Hunter Metcalf's reputation for violence and bullying. The defense intended to call witnesses who themselves were victims of the Metcalf twins. Violence and bullying. The defense intended to question Memorial High School teachers about the Metcalf twins' disciplinary history contained in their school records, which corroborated their character for violence and bullying. And the defense intended to elicit testimony about the Metcalf twins' arrest for racist graffiti in.
Come on now, y'all. Come the fuck on. Yo, that's crazy. Mike Howard need to be disbarred, man. He need to be disbarred. Judge Roach don't deserve a pension. His pension need to be snatched away from him. Everybody involved in this, yo. And it's judicial. On the judicial side, you'll need to be held accountable, man. For real. Even the judge for signing some shit like that. You signed off on this shit, y'all? The judge had to look at this agreement and say, yo, this is handicapping the fuck out of the defense. Like, damn. Now we know why it wasn't no defense. He couldn't defend. The agreement said no defense. Basically, now it makes perfect sense why I've been saying the whole time they didn't provide a defense. They signed the agreement that didn't allow it.
Good faith reliance upon the agreement, the defense did none of this. The defense even limited its questioning of witnesses about statements they had made about the Metcalf twins being triggered, having a loud mouth, being passionate, etc. That had been deemed to be allowed under the agreement in an abundance of caution to avoid opening the door. Furthermore, related expert would open the door to character, reputation, and extraneous evidence pertaining to Karmelo. The defense chose not to designate any experts and ultimately chose not to call as a witness a neuropsychologist to discuss how Mr. Anthony's perception of threat and response, as that is self-defense, and a forensic psychologist to discuss brain development of a 17-year-old, as well as the fight or flight response as it applied to Mr. Anthony's actions. Y'all want to tell me that they didn't railroad this boy? Y'all want to claim that he got a fair trial? If you see all of this evidence and you think that he got a fair trial, you're full of shit. You're full of shit. You're full of shit. There's no way that you can see this information and not see how they totally screwed Karmelo. Michi?
They sabotaged him, yo. It's the defense, man. I told y'all from the beginning, it's a defense. Y'all know we always stand alone over here, man. When everybody was screaming at Joy, what we were saying? Man, it was a defense, man. Before we even knew about the agreement, it was a defense. Defense through them. Damn, that's fucking crazy. That's crazy, yo, they signed that agreement, man. That's insane, man. And you know they ran this agreement past the parents. They knew them parents was green. Though sometimes, yo, when you fighting a criminal case, yo, you can't always listen to your lawyer, yo. Sometimes. You wanna, cause a lot of times you think your lawyer gonna have your best interest, yo, but if I was your father and I heard this agreement and I knew that evidence, I'd be like, man, fuck no, man, we gonna fire his ass. I might fire him just for considering it. Like, so you considering this? I think it's a good agreement. We want to play fair. Man, get the fuck out of here, man. Give me my money back, bitch. Like I don't slap the shit out you and kick me on your ass. I'm trying to send my son to prison for life, man. That's crazy, y'all. Yeah, y'all. He just ignorant. Yeah, he ignorant of the law. They never been in no situation like this before. They probably don't even have family members that they close to that been through this type of shit. Everything was just a perfect storm, and everything lined perfect.
What's your thoughts?
Hey, good to speak to you, Nate.
Hey.
I joined a bit late. I'm just curious about this door. So, if we open this door, what happens?
Then they would tell whatever bad information they had about Karmelo. They haven't mentioned what that is. It would open the door to bad information about Karmelo.
I open the door. How bad can it be in relation to what's going on? I say, let's open all the doors.
Open the door. Like I said, whatever Karmelo had going on behind closed doors, I'm sure they compete with racist graffiti and documented bullying. I'm sure it didn't weigh. I'm sure it didn't weigh out. Open that motherfucker, knock that bitch off the hinges. What we even need a door for? You heard me. Fuck the door altogether. I'm gonna kick that bitch down and fucking and take it off the hinges. They don't need no door. See, we in this bitch fighting, gloves off. Bitch went from boxing to UFC. I mean, we have to be putting niggas in head locks, leg locks. I mean, sharpshooters. You heard me? Fuck that. Yeah, we try to win. Ain't no time to be playing nice guy. This shit crazy.
Let's put everything on the table.
I agree.
That agreement was why that was agreed to. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Like if he didn't kill somebody, which if he just got into a fight with another student, let's put it all out there.
Exactly. It seems like everyone's got a bit of a history, so let's put it all out there. And in relation to all of that, then let's look at the case again.
I agree. That's why I want to know, like, what is this bad information that they have on Karmelo?
Yeah, I gotta get over there on her live, man. She need me over there. She don't even know it. She need me over there on them lives with her, man.
That they keep saying that they didn't want the door to be open, and they're not even saying it here. So it's like, what is it? There's rumors, but I don't want to go off of rumors. I want to go off of facts. So let's put it all out there. I say, if they did racist graffiti, if they had a reputation for bullying, if they were thugs that they sound like they were, put it all out there.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, the aggressors were them. Karmelo was sitting down. They approached him. I don't know why that's not taken into account. He didn't approach them and attack them. They approached him. So how can that be straight murder? It just doesn't make sense. I'm in the UK, and even in the UK, that makes no sense.
Right. Somebody said pictures of him with guns Well, there was pictures of both of them with guns. If they're gonna use pictures of Karmelo with guns, there was pictures of Austin and his brother with guns too.
Okay, but is there evidence that he used the guns?
No,
That
this
he
was
hurt someone with the guns? Okay, so a picture of a gun means nothing, but records of the brothers having a reputation of fighting regularly, being racist regularly, I think that holds more weight than a picture of Karmelo with a gun that he hasn't caused any harm to anyone with.
Right. I
Picture of the gun, so what?
I agree. But I think that they were weighing it on, they know that that's a racist ass county, and they know, but still, put it all out there. Put it
Absolutely.
all out there.
I'm not sure what.
They wasn't wearing anything. They wasn't wearing anything, D. Other than the fact that we don't get this boy convicted. That's it. Whatever we gotta do to make this an easy conviction, then that's what the fuck we're gonna do. And that's what they did. They wanted to make it easy. Now look how many questions, like I ain't never seen a trial that left this many questions after the trial. Like nothing got answered on the defense side. Nothing. We still don't even know why he brought the knife. Like they didn't answer any questions, y'all. That's how you know the defense was lackluster. A good defense, when the trial is over, rather win, lose, or draw, everything is on the table. Win, lose, or draw. This was a loss, and I think we got more questions now than we did before trial. That's evident of a lackluster defense. That's what that means.
His defense chose to agree with those conditions, but I think considering that this is his life on the line, then I think they should have just opened all the doors, all the windows, and let's get everything out.
I agree. Bro, man, what's your thoughts?
Hey, thank you. I just wanted to know, like, I was trying to find too, what is the benefit for Karmelo for them to make this agreement? Because it just screams to me inadequate counsel. He wasn't able to get a good defense because now, if I'm right or not, I'm not sure. But when they're talking about character, right, that's both good and bad. So the good character of Karmelo can't come out. The negative of them can't come out. Now, also, I had heard with the gun. I apologize, but
You talk. I'm gonna listen, but I'm gonna go tinkle. But go ahead. Don't say nothing that you ain't supposed to. Don't say nothing crazy or none of that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I got you. Yes. Y'all subscribe. Hit the like button, bro. What's wrong with y'all? This is great content. Support the channel, bro. Subscribe, like, and share. But I was hearing that it was a prop that he was posing with, not necessarily an authentic, real tool. So I just think that, like what you're saying with the county, that
I don't give a fuck if he was posing with a Draco with a motherfucking 100-round drum in that bitch. He ain't used it. There's no evidence of him using it. It was evidence of these kids being racist. It was evidence of these kids being bullies. It was evidence of these kids having attitude problems when people don't listen to them. It was evident that these kids had other kids at the school scared of them. I can't see anything in Karmelo's history that outweighs any of that. Yo, are you gonna let me go? Go ahead, bitch. God damn.
they already had their mind made up the day that it happened and that they were not into doing the investigation. And then also when we see that the corruption with the prosecutor, the state guy Paxton, whatever office he had, he's also trying to get political favors from them. So just like it just screamed of political corruption, and I think that we as a country deserve better. And I think that we all know that if the roles was reversed and Karmelo was the Caucasian kid, bro, that they would not have gave him 35 years for trying to defend himself against a mob, bro. And like my thing is also, if you got 21 witnesses and none of them can Like, come on, bro. And then, where are the adults? You mean that this tent, canopy, whatever, is ran by the students? There's no adult supervision anywhere. I just think that that's a mistake by the school district and whoever was hosting the event, and even the people that was in charge of that canopy. Because nobody knows what happened. It turned into a he said, she said. They're giving us grant before you do.
That's irrelevant information. We ain't talking about that.
Your son would not register. They wouldn't have said. But I'm saying, but so they, if they would have had a chance to be able to talk in his ear, they wouldn't have said, son, don't do that. We love you way more than anything that you're trying to stand up for right now.
They knew it was going to cost his life, but if they didn't think
right, okay then. So then that's the person that, to me, made the biggest mistake. But go ahead, I apologize.
I need to apologize. I hear what you're saying 100%, but I think knowing the outcome, they would. But I still feel that they don't think there was anything wrong with their son's behaviour. I still feel that they would justify his actions.
They would both justify it, because you see the mom justifying Hunter. Like, even down to her describing how Hunter was at the court the day of the verdict. She justified him going to Austin's girlfriend's house for 30 days. Oh, he didn't want to be at home, so he found comfort with Austin's girlfriend, but completely innocent. Like, girl, you make excuses for your kids. There's no reason that he should have been laid up at Austin's girlfriend's house for 30 damn days.
Damn.
Enablers.
What?
And then she was trying to shame the cheerleaders who were bullied by her fucking thugs, and she tried to justify that the parents that released the evidence that her children bullied her daughter, that they were wrong. Oh, they were just trying to get clout off of my son. They were trying to just get clout off of him. No, how about they were trying to tell their truth, that your son is a damn thug and a bully, and according to what Mike Howard says, a racist.
Hey, can I ask you a couple more questions, please? Is there anything in that paperwork talking about them not presenting the weapon, the tool in court? No DNA, no fingerprints. Karmelo, go ahead.
They did present the tool in court.
Okay. So did they have fingerprint?
Let's talk about it. What about it? You talking about the video where he kept walking towards her and she kept telling him to back up and back up and back up and back up, and he kept coming and kept coming and kept coming, and she shot him? Is that the video you talking about? Let me know if we on the same page. If you talking about the video where a grown man was approaching a woman and she was backing up and he just kept coming, what you mean? It's always a crime. Let me tell you something, right? I'm not them other guys. I call shit down the middle. I'm not them other guys. I'm not the guy that's, if the person is black, I ignore the facts versus the person is white. I don't do that. I call it like it is. However it is. Regardless of what race, I call it how it is, y'all. Get that understood, man.
Evidence or DNA or...
I never heard them say that we got his DNA, but they presented it in court and they had testimony of kids.
But this situation with Karmelo Anthony is way bigger than Karmelo Anthony. This is about the system and how black people, day in and day out, don't get fair trials in this country. Way bigger than just the situation. This is an indictment on the system and how corrupt and dirty it is. That's what we're talking about right now. We're talking about a defense who was a paid attorney, who was paid to represent his client adequately, signed a one-sided agreement that handicapped the shit out of their case intentionally. Tow truck. That's what we're talking about right now. Are you cool with that? Whether the person is black and white or Hispanic, that should never be something that's going on in this country, y'all. You mustn't hear what I just heard. Did you hear that the defense agreed with the prosecution that it was evidence that Hunter Metcalf in Austin was racist and was bullies? In a trial where the victim approaches the suspect, told him to move, put his hands on him. Would you want your attorney to sign an agreement where you can't highlight other instances like that? The fuck is you talking about? See, the problem is a lot of y'all can't do that. Y'all don't have discernment. Y'all can't be fair and unbiased. Y'all can't do it. Y'all can't do it. So y'all come over here and accuse me of being who y'all is. No, I don't operate like that. I don't operate like that. It's like, whenever the person is black, y'all don't want to, it's like y'all just don't use common sense. Common sense don't matter to y'all if the suspect is black. It don't matter. Common sense goes completely out the fucking window. I asked you a specific question, and if you're being honest and not racist, not biased, you would say, you know what? If that was my child, or my cousin, or my brother, or my sister, and that was their attorney, and it was evidence that the so-called victim was racist and a bully, and he got killed being a bully. It was other instances of him being a bully, and my lawyer signed a deal where he couldn't bring that up, I would be fucking highly upset. So y'all say low IQ, but y'all can't even admit that. It don't get no more low IQ than can't admit the obvious. I think that's the lowest form of IQ. When the obvious answer is right in front of your face. You know, I know, everybody know the truth, but you just choose to ignore it. I don't think it get no more low IQ than that, Pepper. I don't think it get no more low IQ than that. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a day one father. Got my kids every day. I don't have multiple baby mothers. My kids grew up in a 2-parent household for motherfucking 15 years. So I don't know what you're talking about. Stop watching movies, man. Once you meet some black people, talk to them. Stop watching movies and just believe in anything, man. I'm telling you, it benefits you greatly. Stop believing stereotypes. Because anybody can be stereotyped. I can say white women is hoes, freaks. You know what I mean? I can say white men is dirty. Get in the shower, wash their hair, and get out. Never wash their body. Don't wear deodorant. You know, we can make a whole bunch of stereotypes up, yo, that fits the narrative. But that don't define every single person. That don't define every white woman. That don't define every white man. So we're not going to allow certain things that certain people do in the black community to define the whole black community. We ain't doing that. I think that's Lil YQ. Fuck boy. And I'm out.